Welcome, Joe. This is the Groundwork show where we interview the people building the world's best ecosystem organizations, and very excited to have you on the show today. We've talked about this a little bit already, and so I'm really excited to jump in. So one of the ideas that I've been thinking about recently is there is this massive overlap between the experience required for being a successful partnership leader and also the data and information required to make smart decisions around either getting acquired or being an acquirer. And if you look at the string of recent acquisitions that have happened, like HubSpot acquiring Loom, HubSpot acquiring Clearbit, or Atlassian acquiring Loom, and there's a whole string of them recently where the partnership preceded the acquisition by a long way. And I'm interested, given your financial background, especially operating in a time where it was challenging financially, and we're in another challenging financial situation now where there are lots of companies that are going to need to be acquired. And also there are probably smart companies out there that are realizing that they can get some good deals in this environment. And so there's going to be lots of acquisitions. What are your thoughts around that kind of overlap between corporate development and partnerships? And is there potentially an opportunity there for partnership people to raise their hand and take on a more active role in that strategy?
So I think this is a really interesting question. Somebody like me, I think it really depends. So let's start with the perspective of working at an ISV, right? You're the partnerships lead or partnerships person at an ISV. Yeah, you're doing integration projects all the time. You definitely have your finger on the pulse of who's who in the zoo, right? From a tech partner perspective. That being said, the skills required to actually do a financial evaluation and understand, or financial modeling plus valuation, it's actually, in some cases, it's a different skill set. Like it is a slightly technical role. I think if someone comes from a sales background and moves up through the ranks into partnerships through sales, I think it would be a little bit different. But having someone that has that consulting / financial experience, it's an awesome skill set to have, combined skill set to have. And I think that it would be extremely valuable at the highest level from a partnerships perspective in an organization. Currently, in my role, so we are a services company. So we acquire other services companies, right? We don't technically partner with services companies because they do kind of what we do. It depends. But I'll give you one example of what we have a corp dev team, and I work with our corp dev team from time to time. One of the more recent acquisitions for my specific team, well, one of the bigger ones over the past few years was a company called Cardinal Path. They are let's just say a GMP, Google Marketing Platform reseller. And we acquired them because, we are a huge Google shop. We do digital marketing. We use Google tools, and they're the largest reseller of Google tools in the world. So it was a natural fit, and they've moved into our organization, and it's great. Like, it's very complimentary. I work with that group all the time, and it works. I think across organizations like consulting companies, ISVs, it's super important. But I do think the skill set required to be successful as a leader in that role is I wouldn't say quite different, but there are a lot of differences, even from a negotiation perspective. Like, how are you going to understand what multiples are? How are you going to understand how to negotiate the best deal? What are the terms of a deal that make the most sense? There's all kinds of things there that really need to be, or experiences that need to be had by the leader to do that correctly.
Yeah, and quick question off the back of that. Do you think that the experience gap or the knowledge gap is similar the other way around? Like, if the corp dev leader wanted to also own partnerships as like a C-level executive, do you think that that's as much of a leap, or that's more attainable?
I think it's more attainable because a lot of corp dev leaders, I mean, in a way, it is a sales job. It is a relationship management job. Like, people that work at, corp dev or in investment banks, like, they're responsible for selling their services. And in order to do that, you need to have a lot of relationship building skills, which is as we all know, is very similar to someone that works in partnerships. So I would say it's easier to go from corp dev to partnerships than it is to go from partnerships to corp dev, by quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even working at Deal, we had like a few very strategic partnerships that involved like joint ventures and,
Yeah,
it was more in the corp dev world than in like our traditional partnerships. And, it felt like something that I could learn, but it was definitely something that I didn't know. you know
yeah,
whereas like that was the bread and butter for the corp dev team there. It was like going out and doing a deal like that and spending a week on site with the partner and negotiating terms and everything else was like something that like going through that a few times, I think I could figure it out with a smart analyst on my team, but like doing that for the first time versus like working my way through how to like stand up a partner program or something. It
yeah,
feels like you can kind of do more experimentation and figure things out
yeah.
uh, on the partner side.
Oh yeah. I mean, negotiating is um, is a business in and of itself. Like it's part art, part science. Negotiating a deal like that. So yeah,
Yeah,
when people do this, they graduate college and spend
yeah,
years learning the details behind how to actually do these things.
yeah. No, I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your perspective. And so I want to get into talking about strategic partnerships specifically because I know
Yeah,
that this is an area that people are really interested in. My back of the napkin finger in the air guess is that strategic partnerships probably generate like 80 to 90% of the value of all partnerships. It's like a small handful of strategic partnerships that really make up the majority of the numbers.
yeah,
And I've encountered that pretty much everywhere, at least at companies once they've scaled. That seems to be the case. It's like you have a small handful of like five, maybe 3 to 50 companies, dependent on the size that you are, that do all of the revenue from a partnerships perspective. And so I'm really interested to hear, like, given that you were at Quantum Metric where you were managing Google, but that you're also managing like a handful of like less strategic partners. Like, hey, I worked at Optimizely, right? So I won't take offense. But Optimizely is less important potentially than Google, if we're being honest. And so I'm really interested to hear what is the strategic partnerships mix, at least that you've kind of figured out, and how does that differ from managing other partners?
So I guess my time at Quantum Metric is very different than my time at Merkle.
Yeah.
I would say, I guess, to answer your question directly, I would say probably either 60-40 or 70-30, in favor of Google, specifically Google Cloud, while at Quantum Metric. They're a very large organization, and I would probably actually yield towards around 60-40 because we did have a number of tech partners, 5 or 6 that were core partners at the time that we did have a relationship with, which took time. But because GCP is such a big company, it did require a considerable amount of time. And over time, I would argue that I took more time working with that particular group because I always felt that the revenue generation opportunities, plus they were kicking off their marketplace initiative, um, they were just long-term strategic areas where we need to spend more time.
And so tell me a little bit about just the like as an example, right? Like one of the in a less strategic partnership, like say and I might be correlating strategic partnership with like the size of the company now. So that might
Yeah,
be correct because you like the yeah, I'm just interested how like you navigate something with Google versus like a company like Optimizely, where you could probably go and talk to the CEO at the drop of a hat if you wanted to.
okay. So I guess going back to my ISV days, yes, I guess we called them a strategic partner. Um, I might I might err on the side of they were more of a sales partner. It, But while working at Merkle, like this is what I would consider to be a true strategic partnership. And the way I define a strategic partnership is a partnership where there are multiple things happening across the relationship. So what do I mean? So we have joint sales initiatives. So actually, let me take a step back. Number one, Google is a big company, and I focus on my time on working in three areas of that organization: GCP, so that's Google Cloud; GMP, that's Google Marketing; and Google Ads. So those are the three areas where I work, right? And in each of those three areas, we have joint sales motions. So I'm working with GCP, and GCP is working with me to sell our services and their products into either our joint customers or new customers. And the other thing that I think people don't see as much is we do a lot of joint product development. So the way that I view the partnerships role here, or the strategic alliances role here, is it's like we're an entrepreneur, like a tech startup entrepreneur, but working inside of a larger organization. Because Google may fund the development of any number of products, and we may build that product. Like I'll give you an example. If Google, AI is obviously very interesting to everybody, especially Google, and especially Google, and they may pay Merkle to develop an AI related product or solution or capability, something that can be used within our client base, right? And it's like it's a joint thing, but it's not just a sales relationship anymore. We are actively building new capabilities that we can bring to our joint customer base. So I think that combining sales plus product development plus, I mean, there is a big relationship management piece to having a relationship with an organization like this. Um, I think those three things kind of add up to being a strategic partner.
Like that's a really good way of like it's a good transition into asking the question around if you're now putting your Merkle hat on, like how do you decide what is a strategic partner? Like at least from a qualification criteria perspective. I think what we talked about was like, hey, this is a strategic partner almost from like a behavior and characteristics perspective. And like how do you decide, or how does Merkle decide what's a strategic partner? I think you said you have four of them at Merkle. Yeah, what's the expectation of a strategic partner at Merkle?
So, okay, so we have, I say we have four strategic partners at Merkle. This is publicly known: Salesforce, Adobe, um, Amazon, and Google. We have a couple other partners that are I would consider either strategic at this point or borderline strategic partners. Like they're right there. How we define a strategic partner, I don't know how we define a strategic partner, but I can tell you how I think we define a strategic partner, and it's just it's the size of the relationship today and the potential size of the relationship in the future. Like we have a very large relationship with Google and the others that I mentioned, and I'll give you another example like Snowflake. Like we have a growing relationship with them. So, you know, they may not be strategic today, but they really are strategic because of the opportunity that will be or can grow from being in a relationship with them.
That's awesome. And like when you say you have a large relationship, is that like a services revenue, like large, or like how do you measure what the size is, I guess, of the relationship?
So I take every dollar I can and just count it.
Mhm.
No, yeah. So I mean, we make money based on the services that we provide. So yes, I count services revenue. I mean, we break out all that stuff. We look at product related revenue, services revenue, but it's the combination of the two. So yes, we count services revenue in our TCV calculation.
That's awesome. Okay, yeah, it makes a bunch of sense. And I mean, it helps because that's always been my best guess for how to like get the attention of a large service provider, is hey, like they basically need to bill hours around your product or the space that you're operating in. And if you can kind of help them accelerate that process, the likelihood is that people are going to take notice of it over time. And so that's always been the strategy. Is that like roughly what you've seen being on the other side now?
So the answer to that question is yes, but I think getting there is very difficult for the reason you mentioned, right? Billing revenue is how we make money, but learning new technologies takes away from our ability to actually do service related work. So, there are what, thousands of I'll say MarTech SaaS companies in the world, United States today. We would just be spinning our wheels looking at every single one.
Hmm.
So it's difficult to take away from revenue generating activities to review new new tech products, new ISV partners. So yeah, it's a bit of a challenge, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And so the Google relationship, like tell me a little bit more about like what it's like partnering with Google as a company. I know what it's Google was like one of the reasons why I got into tech in the first place. Like I mean I was always into it to be honest, but I when I was working at American Express back in the day, we shared an office with Google in London and I saw the people from Google coming into the office with their dogs and shorts and sandals and seeming to be having
Yeah.
like really enjoying their life, and I was like grinding in my suit in the cubicle at American Express, which I won't say a bad word about American Express. It was an amazing company to work at, but it was inspiration for me to kind of shift gears and move into the tech space. What's it like partnering with Google? You've been doing it for long enough now that you probably have a pretty good perspective on that.
So let me share like a couple stats, and I think this will help inform this question. So Merkle's owned by a company called Dentsu, right? And Dentsu has a number of holdcos, and Merkle is the CXM holdco for Dentsu. And the combination of all Dentsu holdcos, there's some digital marketing companies in there, and we're actually combined Google's largest media buying partner.
Mm.
So that's one. That's like an important data point, right? Like largest media buying partner for Google. Two, like you hear of Google Analytics or GA4 through that Cardinal Path acquisition, we're the largest reseller in the world of GA. And I can name a few other, like hundreds of people that are certified in Google. So to answer your question, our relationship with Google, it's really cool and fun and interesting. But a lot of that is probably due to the fact that we have such a large relationship across their organization. Like they have a team of people who are dedicated to us, and we work with them all day, every day on all kinds of things, which frankly is very different than if you are a point ISV looking to get started with GCP. It's a totally different relationship.
Yeah.
Like if I needed to get access to the field sales rep for at GCP covering at whatever account, I can like just ask, and I will get that information, and we will have a conversation. And it's really the result of years of not just me, like our team, the people that came before me, building and growing this relationship to a point where one of the largest tech companies in the world is extremely comfortable with us doing any number of things with them, you know?
That makes a ton of sense. And like, how far up does the relationship with Google go for a company like Merkle? I can only imagine. Yeah, you're probably technically one of their biggest customers.
Yeah, so it goes just about to the top, I'll say.
That's awesome. And for your role, like partnering with Google, like, is there anything that you have to do differently? Like, for at least for me, my like picture of a strategic partnership is okay. We're going to plan quarterly or biannually. We've got this structure. We've got these key stakeholders. We're trying to meet more people. And that's like the cycle. Is there anything like different that needs to happen there, or is it really just like the flossing and toothbrushing work that has to be
It's
done?
a very good question. So, from a sales perspective, it's very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Very similar. We are, like I had a call today. We're planning literally city by city road shows in 2024 with GCP. This is not different than anything that anybody probably listening to this is thinking about doing,
Yeah.
right? So from that perspective, like we're having calls with specific FSR, or that's their term for an AE, AEs. Their AEs and our AEs are talking, right? So A lot of things are similar. I guess something that I would say is a little bit different is we try to align our teams. So like on the cloud side, like some of the retail leaders, we will get them connected with our retail leaders, and we'll do that across the different verticals. On the product side, like our AI lead will connect with their AI lead. Our analytics team will connect with some senior folks on their analytics team within GCP, for example. So that's actually a little bit different. We are very well connected
Yeah.
across Google. And even on like the ad side, like the CEO of, one of our ads holdcos, or even all of them, they are intimately involved in conversations with Google. Their whole teams are very involved with conversations with Google. We have QBRs, multiple QBRs per year with Google. So I guess there are a lot of like blocking and tackling related things that we do that's very similar. But I guess one of the things to give kind of a different perspective is just getting our teams connected and
Yeah.
keeping them connected in ways that others might not think is possible, or might not think about. We like a lot of conversations. Like we're doing an AI demo day in a couple of weeks. So we're working with their AI team on putting that together.
Interesting. Yeah, and so last question from me. I promise I could ask about a million more questions about this, to be honest. Like the on that thread of, yes, AI is extremely important to Google at the moment, I would imagine. And you want also, that's probably really interesting for your team, but also you want to just be a priority partner on a priority initiative. Like, how do you kind of stay abreast of what the top priorities are for a company like Google? Or are they just like kind of telling you, hey, like, this is what's coming up, Joe? We need you to kind of get on board.
No, so I have an awesome example. I don't know exactly what I can share, but I'm going to be a little vague, but I
Sure.
won't be super vague. We have a capability that we sell it's a big dollar capability that we sell into a number of our accounts. There is a lot of manual labor required to build and maintain this capability. And like one of the things that Google might say is, "Hey, AI is very important to us. We want you guys to think about AI." We're saying, of course, we're already thinking of AI, Google. And by the way, we have an idea as to how we can optimize this capability by using AI, number one. Number two, we have a built in set of customers that are already using this initial capability that can be customers for the AI driven capability. Let's work together on this particular initiative because we have, I don't want to say an idea because an idea sounds small. We have a plan that makes sense that was potentially even asked for by the client, and a built-in pipeline to sell this into other huge clients as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I would argue the opposite. Google's not going to us saying build this or build that. They're looking to their partners. I mean, they are very partner driven. They're looking to their partners to help define what the most important things that they're hearing from their customers are, so we can build the right things at the right time.
Amazing. Amazing. Awesome. Well, I know that we're out of time. I wish that I could ask you 100 more questions about this, but thank you so much for sharing your perspective. I think, like lots of people are out there elephant hunting at the moment with these larger strategic partnerships. And I think like it's very confidence boosting, I guess, to hear that, hey, like we're doing the right things and you got to keep on doing them. And also you just have to like become more important to that partner, and as you become more important, like the doors will unlock for you, and so that's awesome to hear. But Joe, it's been an amazing conversation, a long time coming, so thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and yeah, thank you for coming on, and I would love to have you on again soon.
Thank you. I'll leave you with one thing. Strategic partnerships is a lot like being, I mentioned this before, an entrepreneur inside of an organization. It's one of the most interesting jobs I think a person can have.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.